Hadithi yangu, my story. I tell it the way I lived it, the way I understand it, and the way it made me feel. It's my truth, my experience, my life. What's your story? Because we want to hear it. Welcome to Hadithi Yangu podcast, and my name is Cecilia Mlenga, your host and narrator. The first time I experienced death was with my biological mother. But the first time I really comprehended death was when my uncle died. My favorite uncle Leko, he was a boxer. He loved boxing so much. And when I tell you, the whole village knew it. And even when they lived in Zambia, everyone knew of his exceptional boxing skills. It was no joke. He boxed professionally, won many competitions locally, across the Mbeya region. He just loved it. He loved it and he did it. He did it unapologetically. He did it from the bottom of his heart. He just loved it. Uncle Leko was a tall, dark, handsome gentleman who cared about people. He loved people. And most of all, he made sure he kept them safe. You'd think because he was a boxer, maybe he was violent, but no, he was not. On a normal day, he was reserved, calm, and charismatic. Growing up, when I would visit the village, if people experienced trouble in their homes like theft and the likes, he would be the first to show up, helping the local government investigate and just to get to the bottom of things. He just wanted to help. He was an uncrowned leader. Without a title, he volunteered himself and his life meant serving others. He gave his life meaning. The older I got, the weaker he became. Back in the 2000s, HIV hit its peak. Millions of young people died quickly because of the lack of education, the stigma that came with HIV, and just for fear of death. And honestly, I can understand why, because when people would see sick HIV patients, there was almost like an ick. And it's not fair, but that was the reality of things. I remember one holiday visiting my grandma. My uncle became even more ill. He spent days and nights just laying down, barely with any energy to walk or even do the things he loved. His spouse was a calm and very positive lady that he had recently married, but somehow with this illness, they just couldn't enjoy their marriage. My grandma one morning went to pick him up from his home, a little cottage he shared with his partner. My uncle no longer wanted his new bride to suffer. He wanted her to go live her life elsewhere. So my grandma took my uncle, collected some of his belongings, and brought him home. In our one-bedroom house, cool, spacious, and with a family of more than 5 grandchildren, we made space for my sick uncle on the couch, where he would spend his last days. There were no extra beds. In fact, there was one maybe king-size bed that my grandma brought back from Zambia when they moved to the village for good. Nobody slept on that bed after my grandfather died. And it's quite funny because, that's just how, being young, you're scared. You're scared that, oh my God, someone died, so I cannot go there. When I got older, though, my cousin and I got over the fear of my grandfather's ghost. And we started sleeping on that bed. But before, we just couldn't. Uncle Leko, I cared for him and I loved him dearly. Mostly because he loved me and he always wanted the best for me. He always asked about my interests, my progress in school. He loved to learn. He loved education. He was my cheerleader, so encouraging, and always willing to counsel me and listen to my crazy ideas. I had so many ideas. I spoke about the weirdest things because my imagination just ran wild all the time. I remember vividly the night he died. We had just had dinner in the dark hut house. Enough light to just see what was in front of us, and barely enough light to see who was next to you. We laid down the sleeping mats, ready to go to bed, wishing my uncle good night multiple times. Uncle, good night. Uncle Leko, are you okay? Good night, Uncle. And not receiving any response. My grandma decided to get up and check on him. My grandma called and shook him. Leko, 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 my son, are you okay? Silent. The silence was so loud, as we were all waiting to hear any slight response. But nothing. The silence grew even louder. My grandmother, in panic, called out loud again. Leko! Leko! Leko, my son! Wake up! Nothing. After a good 10 minutes of trying, one of my cousins decided to try waking him up. But as he held his arm, he didn't feel any pulse nor movement. My cousin drew back in silence and sat still on one of the small couches. At that moment, we knew it was done. My uncle was gone. Cold blood, resting peacefully. A death with no struggle. A silent sleep type of death. I remember feeling a rush of coldness in my bones. Fear rushed in, panic, and anxiety. I was about 13, and I didn't think I remembered death so painful and so profound. A death so real, happening in a present moment. Not one someone just told you, or one that you heard. This was something that happened in front of me. It was a death that happened a few meters away from where I was sleeping, or rather laying down. My mother's death came to me when I was 5, so I remember, but not like this one. Muboke mukambole Uncle Devi, leko afuile. Olo mubopege. Meaning, go to your Uncle David now and tell him Uncle Leko has died. Hey, let's take a quick break. Dear listener, thank you for taking this journey with us. We are so grateful to have you on board. To help us grow, please share this show with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on Instagram and TikTok under the name Hadithi Yangu Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Share your feedback. And if you have a story you want to share with the world, send us a DM or an email on hadithiyangupodcast@gmail.com. It was clocking 10 p.m. We didn't have the time, but we knew because by 10 p.m. in the village, people were asleep. The streets are pin drop silent, the moon is bright, and you can hear nature speaking aloud. 4 of us took the road and started to travel up the village, close to the mountains. My uncle's house was at the bottom of the Livingstone Mountains. We hiked for a good 40 plus minutes. It was the cold season. The cold pierced our clothes without mercy. 2 of my cousins had no shoes, and the 2 of us in flip-flops. Every step was loud with an echo that followed. The more we walked, the warmer we felt. Upon arrival, my Uncle David looked at our faces with confusion. When we knocked at the door, he opened almost angrily, wondering why were we walking around so late? But immediately, Immediately he knew. Uncle Eko's firstborn daughter, Rukia, delivered the news with great sadness. My uncle then told us to travel another 20 minutes to inform other close relatives. And we did. Then we continued to move house to house through the night, informing other clan members. Once we were done, we headed back to my grandmother's house. She was already mourning her son's death, but silently, only because the bell and drums had to beat before our neighbors and other village members could find out. If she started crying out loud, it would scare all the neighbors, so we had to wait. It was at least 4 a.m. in the morning when we went back home. We could only tell because the only bus in the village that traveled from the village to Mbeya town would honk so loud once it crossed the river en route to town, followed by the big canter truck that carried all the farmers' produce to different wards. The canter driver was loud and aggressive, with his driving so, yes, we would hear his honking. We called him Zero, and apparently the name came about when he was in primary school. He often got zero in his exams, so the teachers often referred to him as Zero. Well, then he decided that that was going to be his business name. He was always on time, so we knew. At this hour, elders arrived at the house, instructing us to take up different roles. We removed all the furniture in the house and set them outside under the cocoa trees. We then cleaned the house, and then all my grandmother's favorite cutlery went up the attic. The attic was made from huge bamboo trunks and sticks, creating the perfect storage space while allowing the house to breathe. Everything excess after harvest went into this attic, divided for different things including firewood for the rainy season. My grandma even stored some of her favorite clothes up there. Oh yes, she did. But yeah, I remember she only did that because people used to steal her stuff. So it only made sense why she decided to do that. So she would hide her things, and then when celebration would come about, then she would remove them. Yeah, so it makes sense. After we were done, morning came. Bright, shiny, like death wasn't around. It was a normal day for some, but death for our family. At around 7 a.m., we heard the bell and drums. At that point, we knew, yes, word had spread, and we were soon going to start expecting guests. My aunties were crying and screaming, and some even confused. In a way, still in denial, but we still needed to keep preparing for a funeral that had not prepared us for these mourning days. Auntie started to prepare for guest arrivals. My uncle instructed us, the kids, to drop some maize and firewood. Two of my cousins went up the attic, and I started throwing down maize while my cousin handled the heavy pieces of firewood. A fire was started in numerous spots on the compound, one to boil tea and one for beans for makande, a traditional funeral dish mixed with maize. Makande can feed a large number of people, so in the Nyakyusa tradition, this is the easiest meal to feed family members and guests. The more people arrived, the more real it had come. Uncle Eko's death started sinking in. His body was still in the house, at a corner of the house covered with bright green and pink sheets. I couldn't go inside the house alone. Not because I was just scared, but because a part of me couldn't comprehend death while I could see a fresh body. I mean, he was dead, but his body still looked very real. I wondered if I could wake him up. Maybe he would listen if I called him. Maybe he would come back to us. But he didn't. He didn't wake up all that morning. And the whole time, I just couldn't understand what happened. Have you ever been in a situation of denial? Have you ever wondered, what's the point of life? What's the point of all this? Well, I thought about all of that morning. The compound got fuller with people coming to the funeral from all parts of the village and neighboring communities. Everyone that came with a kisobobo. A Nyakusa traditional basket, narrow on the bottom and wide at the top like a vase, made from bamboo sticks. Every kisobobo was filled with dried maize and a bunch of firewood, or sometimes a big bulk of firewood. You're probably wondering why. Why? Because in my tribe, funerals would run for weeks. A beautiful way to mourn, a way to get together and discuss steps to follow after death, including the will and other important family matters. Funerals bring people together, family members that haven't seen each other in years. We got to see cousins and uncles that I never knew I even had. Just an endless introductions. If you're an African and probably, either East African, Nigerian, you probably have this experience. The more people arrived, the more space we needed to accommodate. All grandchildren and my uncles went into the property, between trees, between banana trees, cutting banana branches, only the dry ones though. They would act like cushions, softening the seating area for all the guests that would come. Over the banana leaves, we would lay large mikeka, African mats made from banana skin, known as migomba in Kiswahili. All these preparations cementing the realness of the funeral, that truly Uncle Leko was dead. The moment it all broke loose was when my sister was wailing with tears from a distance. I heard her voice, loud and painful, completely triggered by the sight of the hundreds of people at my grandmother's compound. They were all seated under a big mango tree. She cried so loud, so painfully that everyone started crying in uniform. The cries were mixed with inspiring goodbye songs. And I remember one song that they would sing was Tukujonga jomo jomo tutikwisa kugomoka. Man. Simply saying, disappearing after the other. I cried so loud. I felt the pain punch me straight into the heart. Looking at my sister, able to relate to the pain. Thinking about my future without Uncle Leko felt so surreal. It felt strange because he was a familiar voice, a familiar face, someone that I had hoped would be with me for the rest of my life. But even maybe he would see me succeed. He would see me fulfill those crazy ideas that I had. My positive, caring uncle, he made us feel seen. After our mom died, Uncle Eko played a father role. He prioritized us, so just to ensure that we didn't feel orphaned. He did his best. Before we knew it, the priest came summoning everyone to the dark grave, ready to say goodbye to Uncle Eko. We gathered all in sadness, but partially thankful for a less painful death. Yes, I'd heard stories of people that struggled immensely before death. But with Uncle Eko, he died sleeping. He had his last meal, his last glass of water, and off he went to rest with the angels after a deep breath. His heart stopped. The coffin sank into the grave, making an uncomfortable loud sound confirming his settlement in his forever home. "Goodbye, Uncle Leko," I murmured under my breath. I didn't cry. I didn't cry because I almost accepted that it was real. However, for many years, I struggled going inside my grandmother's house alone. I struggled to sit on the couch that my Uncle Leko died on. I struggled to walk or even step on the corner that Uncle Leko rested before he was buried. I struggled because I was young, but I also struggled because this was the most real death I had ever experienced. I sometimes thought, what if I met him inside the dark corners of my grandmother's house? I wondered for many years because to me, Uncle Leko felt more alive than dead. I could still remember his voice, his laughter, his walk, and even his boxing. He forever lives in my memory. He left the world a better place, and all I hope is that I hope he knew that I loved him and that I adored him. Dear listener, thank you for taking this journey with us. To help us grow, please share this show with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on Instagram and TikTok under the name Hadithi Yangu Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Share your feedback. And if you have a story you want to share with the world, send us a DM or an email on hadithiyangupodcast@gmail.com.